all of the strategies work, but you have to find your own niche. And
Hmm.
once you find your niche, you have to be consistent with it. So
Hmm.
you can't jump from this to that. So consistency was the biggest key. That collaboration is awesome. I don't like to do things by myself. So collaborating with other people has been really, really great and fun.
Hey guys, so welcome back to Jkom Living. We are so excited to continue with our wholesaling series. We've got a special guest with us today that's going to really go into detail with how wholesaling works, the ins and outs, pros and cons, and she's going to drop a few gems for us. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my girl Monique, also known as Mo Hustle, the She Builder. She's known around Atlanta. She's definitely started out in wholesaling, but she's done everything from fixing, flipping, building, and now even developing. So she has a lot of knowledge and not a lot of experience, and we just can't wait to hear more about it and see what kind of gems we learned today with wholesaling. Thank you, Monique, for coming on and willing to talk about your experience with wholesaling and just real estate in general and investing. Um,
Hmm.
Super excited to talk to you. I know we've got a lot of questions. So let's jump right in.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Hello,
Sure,
hello. And
sure.
I'm excited to be here. So thank you again. Thank you.
So tell everybody, a little bit about your background, how you got started, ultimately how you got into wholesaling that led up to this now developing. Uh,
Sure.
yeah.
So I got in well, I started learning about wholesaling back in 2015, early 2015.
Okay.
And like a lot of people, I watch a lot of HGTV. And I was always curious about real estate, but my mindset around real estate was just like from a realtor's perspective, right? So
Mhm.
I was totally clueless about the real estate investing side of the business. I have an operations business management background professionally.
Mhm.
And I was riding to work for about 2 weeks, and I just kept hearing these commercials. Learn how to flip houses in the Atlanta market using other people's money. We're looking for a small group of individuals, blah, blah, blah. And just one day on my way to work, I said, let me see if this is real. So I called the number, got tickets to attend a seminar, went to a 2 hour seminar. From there, it was like information overload. I'm hearing about all these investors and different strategies that they're using, from getting contracts and assigning their contracts and making money, not actually purchasing the property, but on the
Mhm.
contract. So it was information overload in 2 hours. Excuse me. From there, they offered a 3 day weekend seminar, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I took Friday off from work and I went that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that I signed up for. And there were a lot of local investors actually there networking as well. So I got a lot of business cards and I just met every person that I could, and I got phone numbers. So from there, I was just like, wow. So I started doing a lot of research on YouTube. Then I learned about this group here in Atlanta, House Jerk. They were having weekly meetings, and I went to the first one. And I was like, holy moly, this is like real estate church. Like, it was so many people there on a Thursday evening. I think it started at like 7 p.m. And there were people that were speaking on the panel. And as different people spoke, those that resonated with me, I just put targets on people. I'm going to get their card. I'm going to mentor, they're going to mentor me, and I'm going to
Mhm.
do business with them. And to this day, each person that I targeted at that meeting, and it was only like three,
Mhm.
but they are still in my network. I can call them. Some of them are mentors. So once I got started from there, every off day that I had from work, I was calling and just, hey, can I shadow you for the day?
Mhm.
And I just got busy.
So exactly, when we get into the process of wholesaling,
Hmm.
um, definitely networking and having that pool of people that you can reach out
Hmm.
to or that you can shadow to kind of see exactly what they do. That's definitely a part and it plays a key role in it. So get into your first deal. How did
Hmm.
you actually navigate that? Like what was your first way to get started with the deal? Who were the buyers or the sellers? Where was the property?
Hmm.
Tell us all.
So, yep. So my very first deal was very interesting. So there was a website, biggerpockets.com.
Yep.
David's
So,
familiar for sure.
We're all
Yeah.
yep,
familiar with them, right?
okay, yep. So I created a membership with them. This was again back in 2015. And because I was working, as I'm going to these meetups, I'm learning about different strategies to generate leads. So you have driving for dollars.
Hmm.
You have people that were doing direct mail campaigns and, and other forms of marketing as well to generate leads. So because I'm new to the business, for me, I'm hands on. So I said, well, let me get a map. So on my way home from work, see what neighborhoods are en route. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, on my way home, I would jump off the expressway and literally just start circling blocks. So I had I had a map of different neighborhoods, and as I'm going to these meetings, I'm hearing investors talk about the neighborhoods that they're investing in. So I think at the time there was like Kirkwood, Edgewood, and I was working in Tucker, and I live in South Fulton. So I'm jumping off the expressway. People were talking about Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, as I jump off the expressway, I'm seeing the We Buy Houses signs, and I'm just paying attention, right? But for me, it was exciting to physically see. And then on my off days, I'm getting out in the field with people that are doing this full time.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm in the field with them, I'm seeing different neighborhoods and things like that firsthand. So for me, driving for dollars was what I chose to stick with. Okay.
Yeah.
And I heard people say at these meetings, all of the strategies work, but you have to find your own niche. And
Mm-hmm.
once you find your niche, you have to be consistent with it. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't jump from this to that, this to that. So consistency was the biggest key. So what I did, I got bandit signs. So the We Buy Houses signs that you see out, I created a Google Voice number and I kept those in my vehicle. So I started going out and I had a staple gun and me and a couple friends, we would just stop and, just put them out, put them out, put them out. I heard a young man say that every time that he went out, he had a target not to come home without 25 leads, right? So when we're out driving for dollars, we're looking for properties that are boarded up, they look dilapidated, basically anything that looks vacant and that someone doesn't live in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that is very important to me because I've heard of door knockers, right? So people going door to door and offering people money for their homes. Not in the business of putting people out of their homes at all. So what my strategy was to find those eyesores, focus on the eyesores and things that can actually be acquired to sell to actually enhance the community versus trying to push people out of their homes and change the neighborhood in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my very first deal was a lead that I found on Bigger Pockets. So I'm at work on my lunch break. I started bringing my lunch so that I could take that hour that I had to dedicate to cold calling.
Mm-hmm.
So you can generate leads on Bigger Pockets. So they have filters where you can look for, say, tax delinquent, out of state homeowners, and different ones inherited. So properties that have been left to loved ones that they've inherited, and so forth. So I came across
I
a
think a
couple.
new one, I didn't mean to cut you out. A new one David was mentioning was the water bill. If the water's been shut off, that's a new
Mm,
way
okay,
now that you can find distress.
nice, nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So long story short, found a lead. It was a tax delinquent lead, and they owned a property here, and they had been gone from Atlanta for I believe like 7 years, and they were in a foreclosure process, but had not actually gotten foreclosed on. So when they moved here from here, they just moved, and they had no clue that the property was still in their name. Well, that's what they told me. They didn't know that the property was still in their name and they were $17,000 behind on taxes. So going to the meetups and networking within the House Jerk networker within the community, there was one person that I met that actually buys tax delinquent properties, and he would buy them for the taxes owed, hold them for whatever that period was, fix them up, and then keep them as rental properties. So how do I find the buyers or how do I create my buyers list? Networking and actually already having people that are on the market for homes or for
Mm-hmm.
investment properties, knowing what their criteria are. So say if you come across a property that may need a renovation that someone may want to fix and flip, then now you have this type of buyer. If you have someone that's buying tax delinquent properties to keep and to hold, now you have this type of buyer. If you have people that are looking for land to develop, you have this type of buyer. So as I'm networking, I'm building my list. So in my phone, when I save their contact, right next to their name, I put the type of buyer that they are. So he was literally the only person that I called. I said, hey, I've got this lead. So mind you, I made this phone call on my lunch break. My lunch break is like an hour. So just the time that it took for me to make the calls and generate that lead, they said, hey, we just want the property to be taken. So we don't want to make anything off of it. If you can just make this go away, we're good. So he said that he was good taking the property for 17,000 for the back taxes owed plus a wholesale fee of $5,000. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, cool. So he basically walked me through what I needed to do. He said, we can do a quick claim deed. And I went to Staples, got the quick claim deed form, uh, sent it to the couple in Arizona. They
Amazing.
completed it. Yep, they
Oh
did what they
wow.
had to
So
do over there.
That's
they weren't even
awesome.
local.
No, they never
Right.
came.
Yeah. Okay.
Nope,
Okay.
they
And
never
they didn't know
came.
the house was, they still had the house. That's awesome.
Yep. So it was one of those things, and that's why the group that I'm with, it's about solving people's problems, right? Because again, they didn't even know that they still own the property. They didn't
Mm,
know that the taxes were behind $17,000, right? So we did a quick claim deed. They got everything notarized on their end. They had it sent back here. From once we got it back, I took it down to Fulton County and submitted it to the office. Once it was filed, got the document in the mail, the title, and I called the buyer and said, "Hey, I had all his information, so I transacted everything basically."
mhm,
So once the quick claim deed had been filed and everything with the city, once everything was sent over, well, mailed back, I just met up with him at Starbucks on Camp Creek, and literally he cashed me out. So he paid like $1,000 at the start of the deal, and then once everything was processed and finalized, we met at Starbucks, and $4,000 was paid off. So I said, "Shoot, all of this with the phone call." Going down to the city, Staples, everything, this whole thing probably took a total of an hour and a half of my time completely. And that was $5,000.
Mm.
So I don't have any children, not married, all that good stuff. So at that point, it was just like, I can take the chance
I
to
could
do
do
this. Like
this.
if I had the time that I'm given to a company full time, I
yeah.
can do this, right?
Yeah.
And from there,
Yes.
I took the chance and I've been working for myself as a real estate entrepreneur since 2016.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned the team you're working with, and this
Mhm.
is the way we operate. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about the team? What partners do you have? How does it work?
So there were a handful of us, and it's actually very interesting. So there was a girl named well, not there's a girl that I'm still within my network, Jessica Myers,
Mm,
another friend of mine, Sion John, and there was another guy named James, and myself. But primarily, we all met. I met all of them at House Jerk, and on my off days, we were all shadowing the same person, Patrick Henderson. And Don Jacobs was over House Jerk, so this was his business, and we all, reached out to him for support and things like that as well. So we had the same mentors. So these are people that I was in the field with all the time.
mm,
Myself, Jessica, and Sion, we all went full time. I would say within 30 days, around the same time.
mm,
So we were making phone calls to each other daily, motivating each other. So when I say the team, it was just my network, my community.
Okay.
We would get together because you got to keep each other motivated. So being around
yeah.
like-minded individuals and people that have the same determination and drive as you is very important. I mean, we got together one time in a garage and we cold called, like we had a cold calling party. So just doing different things like that to make it fun. Because calling leads, when you have hundreds of leads, once you start driving for dollars, you have to actually go through and research the homeowner of each property.
Mhm,
Once you research that homeowner, then now you have to skip trace, right? So skip tracing is finding their phone numbers the best way that you can. So there was a software called batchskiptracing.com.
Yep.
So you
Familiar
have
with
to
it.
Yep, you have to create an Excel spreadsheet and it has to be formatted properly. You send that off to them, and then within so many hours or 24 hours, they'll send you they'll send you the phone numbers or most recent phone numbers.
So Mo, you also mentioned earlier, and I wanted to come back to this because you mentioned that you really the process really starts with finding the buyers, right? I mean
Yes.
that you get to that before you're finding the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can
Mm-hmm.
you say a little bit more about that? So you know.
Mm-hmm. So, and I always tell people the Atlanta market is just different because um, entrepreneurship is so big here.
Mhm.
So all of the networking events that were, and I'll say pre-COVID, they were daily. They were daily. So I was doing a lot of networking. So it was important because you can find yourself just like running in a hamster wheel, right? You can go
Mhm.
out there and drive for dollars and get leads, and then once you do get a lead, you have no one to sell it to, right?
Mhm.
So as I'm meeting all these buyers and going to all these meetups and hearing people speak, I'm okay. Where are you buying? You know, what's your ceiling? What's your price point? What are you looking for? Cosmetic, full gut. Literally, like I had questionnaires, and again, this a lot of this came from just YouTube research, right?
Mhm.
And just finding, and then my background too, professionally. I hired employees, I trained. So when it comes to like digging and just information, that was just something that kind of came second nature to me. So I was able to apply my professional experience to what I'm now doing independently. Um, so, of course, um, there were people that were serious buyers, right? And this is the tricky part, there are a lot of wholesalers that present themselves as buyers,
Mhm. That's true.
right?
True.
Because they're going under contract, and what they want you to do is feel like, hey, I'm a buyer, because if they do have a buyer's list or they've been doing this longer than you, they can JV or joint venture on the deal with you and help you close the deal, right? So as a newbie, I do want to know who are the wholesalers that have been in the business for years and years, because it's about volume, right? So if I can do a deal with you, do a deal with you, and do a deal with you, and generate some deals on my own, I'd rather do 5 deals versus just saying I did one,
Right.
right?
That's yeah.
Yeah, so just identifying people that were really buying, and then having a variety, because I met some people that were buying, that buy frequently, consistently. So all I needed to do is focus on what they were buying,
Yeah.
and not and now I'm able to narrow down, my search, and now just literally be someone that works for them, so to say, as a partner, finding their deals.
Well, so in that instance, are you going through the whole deal or you're just finding them, let's say they're looking for land to build, or are you looking to partner so we can build together, or hey, let me just find you some land so I can
At that time, I was not.
yeah.
Now I am having those conversations, because fast forward to 2017,
Hmm.
I was introduced to a builder, West Side Community Builders, and I came on as an assistant project manager. So when I was out in the field shadowing, I was greatly interested in the construction process. So I'm like, okay, well, let me now get under somebody's wing that's actually building. And we were building for investor clients, right?
Hmm.
So worked as an assistant project manager until I came across my first deal in 2019. And I partner with some partners out of state that are in real estate as well, some personal people that I know. And, from there we partnered. So I'm actually having conversations with people about collaborating. So I have partnered with people on deals to where I've come across like multiple lots, and we did build 3 homes consecutively in historic College Park. So that was pretty cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, collaboration is awesome. I don't like to do things by myself. So collaborating with other people has been really, really great and fun.
For
And there
sure.
tends to be enough meat on the bone so that everybody gets to eat, right? I mean,
There you go. There you
that's the only
go.
way it can work, right? With a collaboration, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We actually started a team called Everybody Eats.
Oh, okay,
Good.
nice, nice.
That's awesome.
Ah.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yep. Yep. So that was the team and that team was strictly focused on wholesaling. So people that were interested in learning the business, we would meet up in the field together, drive for dollars, accumulate leads. We teamed up on, skip tracing. We're able to now bring more leads together because each person is bringing so many leads, and we all live in different areas. So now we're able to concentrate and expand the database of leads that we are actually able to produce. So that was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Do
Yeah.
you consider when you're making these wholesale agreements who you are making these deals with as far as what their future plans are with the properties? Does that
Mhm.
come into play at all?
Yeah, so very interesting. So there's a deal that we actually wholesaled a while back, and one of my real estate associates and friends, it was an area that she lived in. So because it's a community that she lived in, she wanted to find something that was within her area, and we actually found a deal that was like blocks away from her.
Okay.
So when it comes to what's important to people, I pay attention to those things. I have another lady. She's an attorney. She has her own GC license. She does this on the side of law. Okay. She buys land. She funds the construction 100% herself. So she's literally cash. And for her, it's all about if the numbers make sense. Not necessarily the size, just as long as the numbers make sense and the deal will be profitable for her. But she likes to be within the city of Atlanta. She's done quite a bit in Pittsburgh, Edgewood, West End, things like that. So um, again, when you meet people, you want to find out what is their criteria and what's important to them, and also knowing what people's long term goals are. They may be doing this right now, but eventually they may want to get into developing multifamily, right? So how many years away are you looking to do that? Because now I can actually start looking into deals around that time for you as long as things are just continuing to grow, as long as you maintain that relationship. So, it's easy. Like when you work with people like that, she was one of the easiest buyers. Because, I mean, when I tell you just cash, buy, yep, it works, sign the contract, send it back. I don't care what you're making, as long as the numbers work for me, we're good. Like, do you? So, respecting each other's position in the business. And again, making sure that everybody eats. But one of the most important things, and this is something that I try to stress to a lot of new people, don't focus on how much money you can make on the wholesale deal.
Because each deal is different, I'm
Each
sure.
deal is different. I've had people tell me if they can't make $10,000 on the deal, they're not doing it. And I'm like, what? Like that's crazy to me. Like why is what you're doing based on a dollar amount?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I feel like, if you're doing things for the right reason, the money will come. But again, it comes to doing volume. Do you want to say, hey, in 90 days, I did one deal and I made 10 grand? Or would you want to say in 90 days, I did 10 deals and then you can add all those 10 deals up? I'm pretty sure that they'll exceed $10,000. But people that think like that, a lot of times the seller ends up getting the short end of the stick, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're negotiating with the seller based on how they can make money because they know what the end buyer needs to buy, right?
All right.
So let's talk about how do we know if a seller is motivated?
Mm.
How do we
Mm-hmm.
identify a motivated seller and what is their motivation?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll give you guys an example. There was a lot that I sold. This was one of my early deals, and it was a property that a lady inherited. It was over in Vine City, Sunset Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady said, my aunt left me this property. She said, I've never owned anything. She lived in an apartment. She said, I've lived in this apartment for an umpteen number of years. She said, I don't even own a car. Right. And what was important to her was to be able to sell this land. And she had, I think, two or three grandchildren at the time. And the money from that sale, she just wanted to put into a fund that they will get when they turn 18. And
Mm.
she already had a dollar amount in mind. I told her the land was worth more than that. She said, this is all I want.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Right. And I
What?
told her, I said, take the extra few $1,000s and go on a cruise or something. She said, I don't like cruises. you
You
know? So
tried. So
yeah,
where that extra money? Where'd the extra money go?
now that's a rare situation.
Right, right,
That's a rare situation. But for her, that was important to her. And that was it, you know? So everybody's why is different
for
and their
sure.
reason to sell is different and their needs are different. You have other people that may have taken out a second mortgage on the house, right? So they need to sell to clear their debt on the property at a
Mhm.
certain for a certain price, right? So if they need to sell, and I've made $750 on a property, I've made $13,000 on it, you know, so it varies. You're not going to have a home run every time, but the mindset and how you approach your deals, it can't be about the money.
For
It
sure.
can't.
I
If
totally
somebody wants
agree.
to get into this, do they need to be licensed? Are you a real estate agent, or
No,
are you
no,
licensed?
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Interesting.
Nope. So to wholesale a property. And it's actually good that you bring this up because as licensed agents will speak on, um, you know, they have to go through their brokerage and there's a process that you go through. A lot of times, motivated sellers are in a need to sell as soon as possible.
Mhm.
A lot of the buyers that that I grew to have relationships with, cash buyers, they're ready to close as soon as title is clear, right?
Mhm.
Um, Title is being searched by through the real estate closing attorney. So I have a handful of attorneys here that I deal with, and then they have title companies that they deal with directly to pull title. They review title, make sure that it's clean. If there are any liens, any judgments, anything outstanding that comes up, all of that has to be taken care of in the process of transacting a sale.
But you don't
Right.
do
I was
that.
going to ask, what if any of that
Yeah.
arises at closing? How do you handle any title issues? So that's
Well,
taken care of
that'll
beforehand.
Yeah, so that'll arise pre-closing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once the attorneys get that information back and they've reviewed it, if something does come up, they contact all the parties. Now, sometimes I had a deal that took 11 months to clear up what came up on title, right? So
Mhm.
we had to extend it out because uh, you can't close with those issues. So the attorney is working with the owner of the property to get those issues cleared up. If it's something that they may not specialize in, they typically have someone else within their network that they'll bring into the deal on their side to help clear up or handle whatever comes up on title.
Okay.
And then once the title is clear, then they'll say, hey, we're clear to close. And that's when we can actually close.
But you, the wholesaler, that's
Hmm.
not, you don't do that. You team for that. That's you have
Absolutely.
the attorneys for, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the wholesaler finds the deal, right? And they find the motivated seller, contract the deal, and then you have the rights within your contract if you're using the appropriate contract. But the contracts that I use, you have the right to you have the right to market the property, right? So meaning you can assign your contract, or you can close on it and then you can turn around and resell it,
Right. Yeah.
what you call a double close, right? So depending on situations, you may have a buyer that may not be ready. Say if our close date is tomorrow's Friday, right? My buyer's funds will not be in place until next Friday. So what I may do is find a transactional funder or a lender that will lend me the money, or if I have the money, I just close on it. But I may find someone that'll do transactional funding, and they'll actually provide the funding on my behalf to close on it. So now the seller is closed based on the date on our contract. Then from there, I'm closing with the buyer at a later date.
Mhm. And
Okay.
then to even get a little bit more specific, I'm sure there's reasons why you would need to close on the date of closing, because if
Mhm.
there's earnest money involved, or if they're not allowing any type of extensions or anything like that, you don't want to lose that. So
Exactly.
yeah, to have those, I hadn't even thought of the transactional
Hmm.
lender.
Hmm.
Uh,
Could
yeah.
could it could it happen that the backside of that fall apart? I mean, you know the buyer is not quite ready to fund it. Um,
Hmm.
so you take it on. Basically, now you own it as a
Yeah.
wholesaler. What happens if
I got a story on that one.
right,
Yeah,
and the
that's
back,
funny
and
though.
then the buyer says, "No, no, I'm not going to do this."
I
Right.
don't want it. Yeah,
So
for sure.
now you're holding the asset, right?
I got
Mm-hmm.
a story on that one.
Tell
So
us, tell
there
us
was a
about that.
deal. There was a transaction. Um, I actually had someone that I was mentoring, and they met a seller and walked him through the process, and we put it under contract. So I'm JVing with him because I'm walking him through the process, and I had someone within my network that had buyers that were buying like in that particular neighborhood. It was Hunter Hills, right off of MLK. The person on the other end of the deal with the seller chose to use a transactional funder, right, to close on it because exact scenario. The contract was coming to an end. The buyer needed more time. They wanted the deal, but they needed more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So transactional funding was in place. The seller did not want to extend. So the attorney just suggested, hey, go ahead and get this seller closed out to save your deal. And then if you're certain that your buyer is going to buy, use the transactional funding and close it at a later time. So that was the scenario. How about the end buyer? Just before the close date that was set, they tried to renegotiate their purchase price,
Mm.
Oh, mm-mm. Too
right?
good for
And they're
that.
saying that, yep, the construction is going to be more than what they anticipated. And mind, this was well over 30 days,
Oh
well
wow.
over 30 deals. I mean, well over 30 days.
Yeah.
And, so the deal basically went south. And
But now you're on the hook with that
person,
transactional lender, right?
yep, but that wasn't on my side. That was on the buyer side. I was on the seller side.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
hmm So on the buyer side, the transactional funding was set up for the person that was JVing the deal on that side, right?
Oh,
Okay. Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, yep. So, but we're all still in tune with the deal because, as wholesalers, we're working together to get the deal closed.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of times, so say if I have a relationship with my buyer, I'm communicating with my buyer, and I'm the one that's handling a lot of those conversations or engaged in those conversations.
Hmm.
And I wasn't privy on our side. We weren't privy to everything that was going on that end, on that side, until it got to the point to where it was just like, what are we going to do? Because the seller's already been paid off, and what this person's trying to negotiate, and the transactional fund, the lady that did the transactional funding, she's an investor herself.
Hmm.
She invests in real estate. She lends to investors as well. So she's very active. And it wasn't a property that she wanted to keep. So for her, it was just like, y'all got to figure something out. And I
Okay.
need
Because I
my
need
money.
money.
And I need
Right.
my money plus my interest, right?
Right. For sure.
So it was a situation where the person on the wholesale deal on the buyer side, they ended up having to close on the property with that transactional lender and worked something out, made some payments to her, and then later ended up selling it off to somebody else that renovated it and sold it. But yes, so David, to answer your question, there are scenarios where you can get stuck with it
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
it happens to go south.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's
So
why I know my experience with wholesaler, they're so, like, boom, we got to do this now. You got to have this at this time, 2-day due diligence or no due diligence. You got to close by this time. And because they're in that window where if we can't assign
Mhm.
it, we got to get out. We got to get
And
out.
the problem with that was the money that was factored in on for the wholesale side, it could have
Hmm.
been negotiated down to where it could have, if there was transparency with all parties,
Okay.
like with all of us that were JVing together.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, this is my buyer. I'm taking care of this. You handle the seller. It was
Hmm.
like that level of separation, and I'm trying to keep the lines of communication open to make sure everything is good
Yeah.
because we made $10,000 on our side,
Yeah.
right? So the person that I was mentoring with, we split it, so that was 5 and 5, and they were trying to make $10,000 on their side. So that was a $20,000 spread. We didn't have
Hmm.
to we didn't have to do that,
Yeah.
right? It could have been a $10,000 spread, and we each could have walked away with 33 each,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or whatever that works out to be. And still been just fine. It was money made. It's a deal that's closed, and we did it. You know what I mean? So
And you
and that
maintain the relationships.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
for
And when you
sure.
have multiple people on the deal too, you're not gonna, when everybody's trying to make this amount, this amount, this amount, that's how it's called a daisy chain. So now you've created a daisy chain, but everybody's being greedy to make
Yeah.
money versus make the deal work for the seller and the buyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're transacting it because guess what? If the buyer buys too high, construction is going to be what it's going to be. If they do everything in a timely manner on their end, right? And they don't make money, but wholesalers made $30,000, $40,000, that's a bad deal.
For
That's
sure.
a bad deal. I hate it when I hear people that have renovated or done a flip and their profit was like 20 or $30,000, but a wholesaler made say 40, 50 grand. That's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything but you sold a contract.
Yep. Yep. Put them. Yeah. Sold the
The
contract.
investor assumes a lot of risk, but that's people don't get it. They're greedy. they I'm not even gonna say they don't get it. They just don't. Some people just don't care.
Yeah, and I think that's not necessarily the difference between wholesalers and real estate agents or realtors, because realtors are held to that higher standard of the code of ethics. And, we're working on
Yeah.
behalf of our clients. So that's
Yeah.
why it's kind of like, oh, you're a wholesaler, or oh, I don't want to work with you because you're a wholesaler, you
Mhm.
know, because of things like that, because they know they're just in it
Yeah.
for that quick
Wholesalers,
transaction fee.
Yep. Yeah.
wholesalers are hustlers. Wholesalers are hustlers. They
But
got
you
to
know
hustle
what?
to
It
make it
is,
work.
it depends on the individual though,
It
because if you
does.
really feel like a person like me, like I'm not here to hustle anybody.
No, I
You
don't mean
know?
hustle in a bad
No.
sense. I don't mean it in
Yeah.
a pejorative sense. But I'm saying you got to make it work.
Yeah.
You're the one. If you're a wholesaler, you're the one that's driving this whole process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
you got to make
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah.
So if I'm a new wholesaler, I'm just wanting to start out. Um, where in Atlanta are the best neighborhoods?
All of them. All of them. It all depends where your buyers are buying. And
So
that's why I say
again, it
all of them
starts with the
because
buyers. Again, it starts with
yes,
your buyers list,
yes. I
building
know,
that
I
buyers
know,
list.
I know investors that are building multi-million-dollar homes. I know investors that are doing cosmetic flips.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all of them, but you've got to find people that you can actually find deals for, because who are you going to sell them to?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get caught up in accumulating email addresses, find a deal, put it under contract, and boom, they're going to do an email blast. Or let me go to these Facebook groups and just post it, which I'm not saying that that doesn't work, but I think if you can really, really just broaden your broaden your network as much as possible. It's great to have access to the Facebook groups, but build personal relationships with people too, because you can have. I never did email blasts. I didn't, and I had probably 6 to 7 real buyers that I just focused on the areas that they were buying in. So if you tell me,
Once you
hey,
have those good buyers that you know, okay, they have the cash or they have the funding already lined up, you know
mhm,
what they want, and if they have a good deal, they're ready to make the move right away.
mhm,
For
yep,
sure, focus on those. The
yeah.
email blast, yeah,
The
that's
lady that I was the attorney that I was telling you guys about, the general contractor,
mm-hmm.
she loves Pittsburgh. So that's when I started focusing on Pittsburgh, and I met her in the field. That's another thing. Where can you meet buyers? Get out in the field when you're driving through these neighborhoods where you see dumpsters, construction. David, if you don't have buyers and like you said, you're new, you want to know where to start, go and see where's construction being done. Where do you see dumpsters and driveways? Where do you see workers working? And when you see blocks and blocks of that activity, you know that that's a hot area, right? So if you don't know where to go and you don't have that buyers list, go in those areas. And then as you're jotting down these addresses of vacant properties around those, within those neighborhoods, go stop on these job sites. Hey, is the owner of the property here? How
Mm-hmm.
often do they come by? Try to find out when you can catch them. So now you can pull back up and try to build rapport with an investor. Now you get to meet a buyer, find out what their criteria is, because if they're building and they're actively building, they don't have time to go find their own deals.
Mhm.
People are likely feeding them deals,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? So you have to just be a walking billboard, let people know what you do. Have your business cards, or now have a digital card on your cell phone, something that you can just scan and give
Mhm.
people your information, and put yourself out there that way. So now let me work for you. Let me bring you deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like being an agent, but
It
you don't
is.
have to be licensed for that.
That's the difference. It's like you're serving a different type of client, a different type of buyer, and a different type of seller.
Yeah. And well, that's what I was going to say, because even with agents, you think more so home buyer, home seller, or
Mm-hmm.
it's more personal. It's a personal property.
Mm-hmm.
And wholesalers are definitely more
Mm-hmm.
investor relations and dealing with investors
And a
for
lot
sure.
of investors want off-market deals.
Hmm.
They feel like it's not as competitive. If it's a property that's been listed, do I have to make a higher offer, or, so it's easier to kind of negotiate with some of these homeowners and sellers through a wholesaler.
Hmm.
And just, they'll let you know, hey, I'm buying over here, but I'm not buying for any more than $100,000.
Yeah. And that's definitely the value in it too, as a wholesaler or even as an agent, just having something that's off market that nobody knows about or not
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows about, um, is attractive too. So for
Mm-hmm.
sure, I agree.
You
What's your
mentioned that.
negotiation style? How
Okay.
do you go about determining the offer price for a property? Are you considering things like um, after repair value? Are you working with that buyer as far as, can you just dive into a little bit about your negotiation tactics with those offer prices?
Yep. So um, there's a formula that um, a lot of um, hard money lenders will use when analyzing deals. And I'll just say on average, a lot of hard money lenders are lending 70 to 80% loan to value. And so I approach it from a conservative standpoint, right? So I'll do my research and see what has recently sold within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but of course, most recent that's comparable to the property. And, relationships with realtors comes in hand, because, I'll reach out and say, hey, can you provide a CMA report on this address for houses that have sold within the last 30 days, and you want to look for something as comparable as possible. So a renovation, bedroom, bath count. And then from there, I'm gonna reverse engineer the numbers. Okay. So if I know that, say, $350,000 is the average ARV after repair value, for the neighborhood that I'm looking at or the house that I'm looking at, then from there I'm going to do 70% of that number. So 70% of 350,000 now gives me an idea of what someone needs to be purchasing this property for and renovating it for it to make sense for them, right? So 70% of 350 is 245,000. Okay. Now, before I started actually doing renovations and builds myself, I had no idea how to analyze the deal. Okay. So it's important to build relationships or find a contractor. So going to these networking events, I was able to meet some general contractors. Hey, can I buy you lunch to come out here and just do a quick walkthrough with me and just give me an idea of how much, right? Or $50, whatever it is, but you definitely want to incentivize these contractors to come out and just do a walkthrough with you. If it's a renovation, they can tell you, oh, you're looking at every bit of 80,000 to 100,000. Boom. I'm going off that 100,000, the max, because you want the deal to be attractive as possible for the buyer. So now that leaves me at a purchase price of $145,000 remaining, right? So now I'm basing my offer to the seller based on those numbers. Now, when originally talking to a seller, you want to find out what is your asking price, right? And again, now going back to their why to sell, do you own your house free and clear? If not, do you know what your payoff is, right? So now we know what's important to them. Are you looking to walk away with anything in your pocket? And some people you have to literally walk through like step by step because everybody doesn't know what they should be selling it for, right? Especially people that have inherited a property, right? So it's like some people you really have to have educational moments with. Others, they'll tell you, I want 150,000, right? So now I already know, okay, 145 is like a max number. And of course, I need to make the deal work for me too. So now, okay, you want 150,000? I may come in and offer, say, 130, right? And then now we just let the negotiations take place. If they're firm on that 150, well, what's your bottom line? And then from there, I have to go into explaining the condition of the home, the repairs that are needed, and someone that's going to purchase this house is actually going to be someone that's going to actually put the repairs, put the work into it, invest in it, and literally just you have to be honest with these people and let them know they're looking at every bit of $100,000. So not only do you have construction costs, but you have to pay monthly fees on your money. If you're using a hard money lender, you have monthly holding costs that accumulate. So now you have expenses, and this person is going to want to actually make a profit on their investment, right? So where can we meet in the middle to where it works for you? So a deal like that, they may say 140, take it or leave it, and that's it. So now I go under contract for 140, and then of course I'm presenting it to, say, my buyers for 145. And
Makes
even
sense.
and some buyers, I'll let them know like, hey, look, this is where the seller is, and I know this is exactly where we need to be. And again, transparency. I'm not afraid to be transparent in business if when need be.
You've talked about
Yeah.
the importance of networking to build
Mhm.
your buyers list. Um, are there other strategies in addition to that you might want to talk about that work?
Absolutely. A lot of the online websites, like biggerpockets.com, you have a lot of online networks.
Mhm.
So Bigger Pockets, you become a member, you get access to buyers. It's a lot of different sites that are out there. But within you can also some sites too, I think it's Deal Finder, if I'm not mistaken. But there are apps that you can download. So if you're driving for dollars, it'll
Mhm.
actually pull up your location. And as you're driving, you can literally add the addresses that you want. So it actually keeps everything in track for you. But then two, it'll show you what's recently sold, shows you who the buyer is. So again, a lot of these real estate apps that are out there, I definitely recommend find one that you like, do your research, look at the reviews. Again, everything is on YouTube, so you can literally go on YouTube and see what works for some people by just typing in the different names of these softwares. And make the investment. You got to make the investment. They're not going to all be free. Free is going to give you limited. So set a budget that you can start out with and use these because it's a lot of information that you can easily access. You even have buyers that post on Craigslist. That was I I did some research on like virtual wholesaling and looking into other markets virtually, and some people will actually market what they're looking for as buyers, and even people that are selling properties too. So again, a lot of people that are selling at some point they're buying. So it's a lot of different ways, David, to market for buyers or to find buyers. But I definitely think the Facebook groups, these different online softwares that are available, becoming a member, pay that monthly membership, but utilize it, and getting out. You got to get out in the field. And of course, meetups.com, there are a lot of RIA groups. So real estate investing associations.
Yep.
Go to these RIA groups. That's where active investors are. Go to their meetings. All of their meetings are on meetups.com, I believe it is. And you can go and you just start.
Okay.
Well, I love that we touched on a lot of things from our first video. It was titled 10K in 60 days. So I know that's not necessarily the goal for everyone to make 10K, but at least we know it's possible. And with you and your story, you showed that you can make 5K in an hour and a half. So hey, they'll be excited to know about that.
An hour and a half in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
So, hey,
So it took 2 weeks for everything to be processed as far as getting that quit claim deed over to them, getting everything submitted to the city, well, Fulton County, and
Yeah.
Fulton County filing it. It was a 2-week process. So
Yeah.
that was 5K in 2 weeks.
Okay. Hey, they'll
That's
take that
awesome.
all day. I'll take that all day. Well, we definitely appreciate you
Me
coming
too.
on, sharing your
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
This
I enjoyed
was
it.
Yes,
fun.
thank you.
We'll do it again.
Great addition.
So you guys, in the next video, we're going to be talking about property management and how to get involved with that and the way Jkom does property management. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And all of our social media will be in the description below. We're at Jkom Living, and you can check us out at jkomliving.com. We'll see you in the next video.